Hey, I can see some folks in the chat. Good morning, Luke. Good morning, Andrew. Oh, hello from Montreal. Cool. Good morning from Toledo. Hey, Larry. Hi, Paul. Nashville. Nice. LA. Ooh. Okay, this is going too fast. I can't keep up anymore.
Oh my gosh,
Ontario,
Australia.
Australia, Vermont, Boston, Dallas, New Orleans. Let's go. Represent Woodstock, New York, St. Louis. Let's go. I'm in Kansas City. Okay. Tel Aviv. Okay. Indiana, Ireland. We've got some representation from everywhere. Oh, Luanda. What's up, Luanda? Hey, good morning. Morning from Niagara on the Lake, Wisconsin. Okay, I'm going to stop reading out all the locations, even though this is really exciting.
Yeah, I saw
Saskatoon. I've got it.
Mexico.
Mexico.
Yeah.
Nice. North Missouri. Tracy represent. Also in Missouri. Hey, Luanda. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us for this panel called "What Makes a Great Showcase Application." My name is Fawn Lies. My pronouns are they, them, and I'm the digital media coordinator here with Focal Alliance International. So before we begin, I just want to take a moment to note that we're joined today by folks from around the globe and collectively recognize the importance, complexity, and difficulty of offering land acknowledgement in the context of online organizing, creation, and collaboration. I'm joining you from Kansas City, Missouri. This is located on the Focal Alliance headquarters is located on the traditional land of the Kansa, Kaw, Osage, Kickapoo, and Oceti-Sakowin nations. We invite you to not only join in acknowledging our shared responsibility to work towards reconciliation, but to commit to taking personal, meaningful, and measurable action towards healing the legacies of colonialization, forced migration, and culture erasure. So without further ado, it's my great pleasure to introduce FAI's conference director, Jared Rivers.
Hi, all. Thank you all so much for joining us today. I'm also joining from Kansas City, Missouri. By way of a visual description, I'm a white male in a plaid shirt wearing headphones. I have a salt and pepper beard, sitting in a room with a poster behind me from Focal Alliance's 25th conference in Toronto back in 2013. Yeah, as Fawn said, I'm the conference director for Focal Alliance, so being in charge of all the logistics of the conference, but specifically why it's important to this conversation, I oversee the kind of collection of applications for the official showcases, and am part of the team that curates the official showcases at our conference. We have at our annual conference about 162 official showcases over the span of 4 days. And we can have as many as 700 to 1,000 applications for those 162 spots that we sort through with a jury of, I think last year it was nearly 20 people on our jury, just to give you all a scale and scope. And I am so pleased to have these two incredible panelists with me. We have Lisa Whytock coming to us from Showcase Scotland, excuse me, and Nicole Roman Johnston from South by Southwest. Lisa, can you take a moment to introduce yourself if it's not too windy there?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. As Jared says, I'm from Scotland, from Showcase Scotland Expo, but I'm currently in Spain in the wind. I think it's sunnier in Scotland. I am the CEO of Showcase Scotland Expo, which is an export office promoting folk, traditional roots, Gaelic, Scots language, music for artists who live in Scotland. And I also produce Showcase Scotland at Celtic Connections. Some of you may have heard of Celtic Connections. It's a very large festival which runs for 3 weeks in January in Glasgow, multi-venues ranging from 5,000 down to 80 capacities. And I am also an agent, so I'm happy to help with questions from that side as well. That's me.
Thank you, Lisa. And Nicole, please introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody from around the world. My name is Nicole, and I am coming to you from Austin, Texas, where we have South by Southwest. I am a senior music festival programmer, so booking shows, basically discovering artists. And we had a great 2023 South by Southwest event this past March, and we are looking forward to our 2024 event, March 11th through 16th. And I'm here talking with you today because artist applications obviously are extremely important for us. They will be opening June 27th, and that is how we book our artists. We review over, I think it's like 7,000 applications and end up inviting approximately 1,500 of those artists. So yeah, looking forward to this.
Amazing. Well, thank you both for being here. We're going to go ahead and jump right in. Fawn, I'll have you put up our agenda slide. We've basically divided today's conversation into two main categories: artistic quality, how do you communicate that on an application, and how do you judge it? And then the second half is career readiness, right? Everything else other than just the music, how do you represent yourself on the application? So I want to jump right in with artistic quality and get some thoughts. I want to start by just saying, how in the world do you judge artistic quality? We hear this phrase all the time, put your best foot forward. I just want to hear what that means to you all on the application side of things. What are you looking for in an application that is in high artistic quality? And then maybe we'll talk a little bit about how in the world do you represent artistic quality in an application? What do y'all think?
I think in terms of artistic quality, you know, there's so much competition. I mean, there's so much great music out there. I think for me, we're looking for, we certainly prefer to see video clips of an artist. It doesn't need to be expensive footage filmed in a studio. But live footage is really useful to see how an audience reacts to you, and also to hear some of your music. I think it's also worth mentioning if you've ever won any awards, if there's anything that musically has stimulated you, you know, inspires you, just to give a sense of what your artistic ambitions are, I think.
I totally agree with that. Essentially, what we're looking for in terms of quality of artists, feels weird to say that, but you know, we are all music people here. A lot of us come from a music background, and you know, are music fans to the core. So we basically, first thing is, do we like the music? Does it sound good? Is the quality good? And like what Lisa said, it's really important to see live footage. I totally agree with that. Not only to see how, you know, an audience reacts, or even if there's no audience and it's like a studio recording, just like, what is that live performance like? Because ultimately you're coming here to give a live performance.
Right. Yeah, couldn't agree more. That's actually the primary thing that our jurors look at and that we as curators look at, is that live video performance of how you're actually going to showcase. You know, for us, it's just making sure that there's no distraction between hearing your songcraft and seeing your stagecraft. And so like, that's the bar for me for quality. I agree. It doesn't have to be a studio performance. It doesn't have to be a 6-camera mixed shot with incredible lighting. If there's no barrier to seeing how good your songcraft is and how good your stagecraft is, that works. Yeah, I love it. So one question we get all the time is about like investing in top tier recordings versus, you know, putting in a full production song, or maybe even using a demo or something like that, or, you know, putting in new work versus maybe work that's 2 or 3 years old. Thoughts on this kind of stuff? What advice would you give artists?
I would say that whatever you're submitting, we provide opportunity to provide context. So for example, if you're submitting a demo, and there's option to say like how long you've been active as an artist. So if you say been active 1 year or less, or 2 to 5 years, and then provide the context, we're in the process of recording, we've submitted a demo. We even have opportunity to submit private links to music that hasn't been released yet. So yeah, just context, or like you said, if there's maybe your last album is 2 to 3 years old, say, don't worry, we're still active. We got new stuff coming soon. So we know that like there's more coming.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. I think also it's useful to submit some tracks that are maybe of a different tempo. If you have some fast tracks and some slow tracks, if you're that kind of artist, submit tracks that show the diversity of what your music is.
Yeah, love that. One question I get all the time when you see that thing, put your best foot forward, artists struggle to decide what piece of music to put forward because these jurors don't have a ton of time. They're reviewing a lot of applications. So in one song, how do you stand out in an application pool of 1,000? What advice would you give an artist who's saying, I don't know what song to pick? What should I put in front of the jury?
I would ask advice from other people. I think the artists are very close to the music. So often it's good to ask someone who's slightly further removed.
Yeah.
That doesn't need to be someone who's a manager or an agent. It could be, a friend or a colleague or a presenter who has put you on in a concert. But ask them, which tracks would you prefer, and maybe do a poll of a number of people.
I mean, it's so easy to do polls now on Instagram. Why would you not poll your audience? Get a little bit of algorithm push. Yeah.
For us, the application artists provide mainly links to streaming, so it's not like one MP3 or link. So basically, we look at it all. And then again, with the opportunity to provide context, you can say, this is our latest single, then we'll know, maybe look for that on Spotify, Bandcamp, whatever.
Awesome. Any other things that we want to talk about kind of before we move on? We're about that 15-minute point, want to kind of get started to move into career readiness. But is there anything else about artistic quality that you just think is a great thing that you've always wanted to tell people from around the globe when they're about getting ready to submit a showcase application?
I would definitely say this. One thing that is you shouldn't do is, if you are, for whatever reason, planning on showcasing as a duo, then the material that you submit should be a duo material. Some artists, have bands, and then they'll scale it down and they'll sometimes showcase as a trio or a duo. I think it's important that whatever you're submitting is material that links to the lineup that you're actually going to be performing as.
Yeah, that's huge for us at Folk Alliance too. And in fact, we say that right in the first line, like we're expecting to see what you will look like on stage at our event. Yeah, that's huge. Thank you, Lisa. I'm just going through the chat here, guys, just to see if there's like big stuff here that I want to throw in. There's a chat message here from Devin Taryn that says, what are the things you should not worry about for artistic quality? I actually had a conversation just this morning with someone talking about applications, and they were so worried that the song that they were going to submit to Folk Alliance's application was not folky enough for our jury. And I just wanted to say that that's actually not one of the things our jurors are looking at all. They're not going, oh, it's not folky enough, or it's not the genre that I was expecting. They're not judging genre at all. So if you're worried about something, or if you want to take something off the table, for us, that's one of those things. Like, just because it says folk in the title of our event doesn't mean you have to worry too much about it, because our jurors aren't defining it. I didn't know if you all had anything to chime in on something not to worry about that you see people getting hung up on.
Yeah, I think just what you've said really is good advice. Go with your music. Submit your music to the poll. And I just wouldn't worry about it. I mean, I do say this. To showcasing artists, there's a lot of competition for those slots. And some of the artists that have applied to us, there's one great example of bands who have actually showcased at Vocalize, but a Scottish band who've applied to us, and they applied 4 or 5 times for opportunities and never got through. And then they got through on the 5th time that they applied, and I kid you not, they were signed by an Australian agent before they had even left the stage. So don't get disheartened. It's worth keeping on applying, and just don't get too stressed about it, because that's not the game.
Yeah, Lisa, we are having some trouble hearing you. When the wind picks up, your microphone cuts out quite a bit. So just letting you know that if it's possible to find an area out of the wind a little bit more, it would help our viewers hear you a little bit better. And I would say it's okay if we can't see you quite as well. If we can hear you clearly, that's good. I'm going to go ahead and move on, but I just want to do a couple housekeeping things first. Number one, guys, I love the chat. It's great to talk amongst yourselves, to talk to panelists. Be sure that you're putting questions in the Q&A section down below, because we will get to those at the end of this conversation. We're going to go through that Q&A. So if you have a question that you want the panelists to answer, put it in the Q&A. It's totally fine to put things in the chat that if you just want other members of the chat to respond to. That's what that is for. All right, we're going to jump into part 2, career readiness. And so this is kind of a big one. At Folk Alliance, we've kind of split it out into these areas that you see on the screen now. So like having a solid marketing plan in place, being very specific about what your goals are for touring for the next year and what your history has been in the previous year before on the application. Having great promotional assets when you're at the event. What is the team you've assembled around yourself to be able to manage bookings and other opportunities that come forward at the conference? And then Lisa actually mentioned it earlier, having that concise list of awards and press mentions ready to go for the application. So all of these things are key. Let's dig in and unravel them a little bit. So Nicole, maybe you can jump in on like what constitutes an excellent marketing plan, like the preparedness on the application. What are you looking for?
So a huge thing for us is, our event takes place mid-March. And if you're applying in 2 weeks on June 27th, and also I encourage you to apply as early as possible, keeping that timeline in mind is really important. So we want to know if you have a new release coming out in October. And, when we're evaluating, we look at, if you say, okay, we have a new release coming out in October and we're going to do a tour around that. If you apply in June, we'll make a note of that, check back in maybe late October, see like maybe how your new track is doing. Look at your social media, see like kind of what's going on there. Basically keeping an eye on your activity. So laying all that out so we know to check back and to see, okay, cool, this is what this artist has in the pipeline. It's really important.
Yes, couldn't agree more. Lisa, anything to add on that?
No, I think that's completely covered it, actually.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, it's the same for Folk Alliance too. That's exactly what we're looking for. Like when we get those great scores back from the jury, artistic qualities through the chart, through the roof, we listen to it. We're like, oh, this is amazing. The next thing we look at is that marketing plan. Like it's right up, right? So what are you doing in Folk Alliance? Like, are you prepared? Are you ready? Like, I sometimes see applications where their entire marketing plan is, I want more Snapchat followers, and that's it. That's the marketing plan. And I'm just like, oof, maybe this isn't the showcasing event for you. Like, and then it's like, okay, well, let's dig deeper. One of the things we look at is their tour history and their touring goals. How much does that matter for you all in your events, an artist's tour history and touring goals?
That's for us really critical. I mean, it's key for us that the artists domestically have an audience and they've reached a certain level and that they're ready to go out to the international world. And part of the reason for that is it's expensive to tour internationally. So unless an artist at home is selling, our kind of benchmark tends to be between 500 and 1,500 tickets. Then it's going to be difficult for them to finance international growth. So I think that the touring history is absolutely right. And I would say this, I would say make the case very strongly in your application as to why the time is now right. Why you feel now is the time for you to go international.
Yeah, it's a lot to invest in one of these events just to get your foot in the door. So the timing needs to be right. Yeah. What about over at South by? Does it feel the same?
Definitely. Speaking to international artists, out of the 1,500 artists on average that we invite, 500 of those were international. And so we're really looking at, are you ready to come over and make an impact in this US market, US, Canada?
Yeah.
And, there's all the complications that come with visa and expenses and travel. And so we just really want it to be worthwhile for the artists to invest to come here.
Yeah. Yeah, we actually have the same thing for our presenters too. Like our presenters need to be able to know that all of those official showcase acts are ready to say yes to whatever opportunities they can lay out in front of them. It's really kind of heartbreaking when you get offered this gig over in Scotland and you're like, I've never toured past Chicago. It's tough, right? And so like we try to make sure that everybody coming in the door can say yes to every presenter we've invited and really worked hard to get there and want to keep them there so that they discover new artists and love working with them because they were ready to go when they came in. Let me see. Some of the other things here, we wanted to talk about promotional assets. Now I feel like we're maybe having Lisa switch hats a little bit here and talk about like, how do you promote yourself? Promotional assets, maybe in the application and once you get the showcase.
Yeah, okay. So in the application, I am going to switch hats. I'm going to be an agent, and I'm going to be an agent who is putting in an application for my artist, which thank you very much. We were successful with this year. And essentially you need to talk about everything that's been covered, talk about why you're ready and evidence that, evidence where you've got to in your home nation and evidence interest from, well, in our case, the US. So we would be saying, okay, we've had this amount of press coverage already in the US. We have this number of Spotify followers in the US. So you can illustrate why the time is right and why you are ready to go. I would also definitely list all the awards, and I would definitely make sure I've got some video footage. When you're, but prior to the event, once you've been selected for your showcasing, the most important thing is to do your homework. So is to look at who the attending delegates are, and to really do your homework. And if it's something like the US for us or Europe for a lot of the Americans that will be on this call, these are big places. So, to think that you could do a concert in Belgium one day and then in the south of Spain the next day is not practical. So do your geographical homework, but also do your due diligence on checking out who the presenters are, and what you're looking for. Contact them in advance of going and personalize that email. Send them some links, some footage, live footage of you performing, and let them know when your showcase is, and then follow up, really. And one thing I absolutely hate as an agent is an artist coming, and I really hate this, is an artist coming up to me, you know, at 1 a.m. going, can I give you a CD? Well, one, I don't even have a CD player, right? And secondly, that is not the time to be talking to someone, you know. I really hate that. And I think it's much better just to have a conversation with someone, get to know them a bit, and then ask after that.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. I feel like you just nailed so many points that we talk about all the time with artists. I mean, this is huge. Like, how do you prepare for presenters, right? And at Folk Alliance, we're not trying to hide any of this. We literally put all of the presenters and the venues that they book for right on the website and say, artists, here it is. Do not bulk mail them. Do your research. Reach out to the ones you actually know you can work with and invite them to your showcase in a professional manner. You can't be reiterated enough, Lisa. You nailed that. Yeah. Nicole, do you have something to throw into that?
Yeah, totally agree with what Lisa said. And, you know, for South by, we have so much happening every night. And so you really want to be specific, like, we're performing here at this time, at this venue, and be very intentional to who you're talking to. If, like you said, do your homework. If it's a label that you like and think you'd be a great fit, say, check it out. We'd love to chat. You know, very intentional, very specific.
So I love this next question because we see it all the time. I think we all know the value of having a team around us, right? Hiring agents, managers, and folks to help us with promotion that are better at it than we are. As artists, that's an incredible help. But what we see a lot for folks on applications at Folk Alliance is how can a self-represented artist demonstrate that they have readiness for this, their career, they're able to manage this. How do they demonstrate that on the application when for all of these spots they're putting self-represented, self-represented, self-represented?
I think that's actually really easy. I mean, if you are looking for representation, and I'm guessing if you're a self-represented artist, you're looking for representation, that is your reason for showcasing. So you say that in your application form. I am looking for a manager. I am looking for a label. I am looking for an agent. I am looking for a press agent. So you say that. And there's nothing wrong with being self-represented. I mean, you know, if artists weren't self-represented, I would have no roster, right, to look after if they already had previous agents. So agents are there looking for artists. And ironically, I have signed, I signed one band from one of our own showcases that we were putting on. I was like, wow, you're amazing. And I signed a band from Iceland just last year who were at a showcase who had no representation. So people are looking, agents and managers and record labels and press agents are looking. So say that on your application form.
Do you have something, Nicole, or?
Yeah, I totally agree. It's definitely not a deal breaker if you don't have a team. I mean, we have plenty of fields on the application where you can list your team. And yeah, like Lisa said, if you're looking for that, say so. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Lisa, you've brought up a couple of times on this conversation already, kind of press mentions and awards. I know this is something that we look at as staff when we're curating this. We kind of look at where is your press buzz? Have you applied for and won awards? You know, are there playlists you're being added to? You know, where's the buzz? about you. How important is this in your all's applications? Is this something that your jury or you look at?
For us, yeah, definitely. We have fields where you can provide links to press, and like you said, we like to see where that's coming from, what kind of publications. And yeah, basically lists, okay, we hit this many followers on TikTok. That's where a lot of
Yeah.
our buzz is coming from. Yeah,
There you
just
go.
again, context.
I was just going to say that, it's not just, it depends on which country you're coming from. In Scotland, we have a lot of awards. There's two main awards ceremonies each year, but for some places there's not such award ceremonies. So if you have got awards, then list them. But again, it's not a deal breaker. As Nicole said, like TikTok or Spotify or streaming numbers or social media reaches, these are all things that illustrate you're ready.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And we actually on our application have changed it so that it's now just you provide us a single link to a web page that you've curated that has all of this information on it. Because if sometimes I have conversations with artists and I say, do you have your awards and press page? And they're like, oh yeah, but I haven't updated it since I submitted that application last year. So if at the very least, every year you submit those applications, you update that press and awards page. So, but that way you can put anything you want on it, whatever you're interested in celebrating, right? Y'all, I think it's time to move on to the Q&A, unless you've got anything that you're excited to kind of throw in as a final thought. Go ahead and unmute yourselves, and we're just going to rapid fire this. Sorry, final thoughts before we go to Q&A? No?
I always say just as much detail as possible.
Sure.
You don't want your promotional plan, marketing plan to just say, grow audience.
Yeah.
And I would just say, don't be nervous about applying. I'll just remind you about that band that applied to us 5 times and then walked off the stage and got a career-changing agency deal on the 5th time when they got through. Yeah. So don't be frightened about it. It's an opportunity. It's not something to be nervous about.
No, indeed. Look at it this way. Filling out that application immediately puts your music in front of high-end industry professionals who are reviewing your work. Even if you don't get the showcase, think of the people who you just got time in front of. It's amazing, really. And we have multiple jurors for every application, so it's always multiple people. All right, I'm going to dig through this Q&A. Let's see what we've got here. And I'm just going to start clicking on, oh my gosh, there's 44 questions already. This is incredible. Okay, Alex Mallet asks, is it important to submit a video that is the same as the lineup instrumentation as the band? I think we covered that already. The answer was definitely yes, very important. Let's see. Is there an age bias in submissions? Interesting question, anonymous. I don't think we asked that. Y'all are unmuted, right? You can chime in whenever you want. This is open forum.
We definitely don't have a bias like outright, but we want to make sure that you're still active. And then from just a practical standpoint, a lot of our venues are 21 plus. So if you are under 21 and are invited to perform, then further along in the process, we'll work with you on that. And
yeah, great. Here's an interesting one. This is kind of like put yourselves in the point of view of a juror. Would you recommend seeing a full song recording or making a montage of multiple clips to show maximum variety? But I'm assuming the same length, maybe 3 or 4 minutes. Thoughts?
I prefer a full song. I don't like the montages at all.
There you go.
That's a personal thing.
Yeah, Nicole?
I'd agree. Again, for our application, we accept links to streaming platforms, so we'll look at all the song. We'll check, click through, sample everything. We'll make our own montage.
It actually does work that way. I
Yeah.
agree completely. Another anonymous question: if you haven't produced a recording in 10 years, is there any point in submitting? I feel like we kind of already answered that, talking about, what are your marketing plans? What is your active career, active touring? Everything we've talked about, active, active, active. Let's see, what visas are needed for foreign artists to perform, and how do you help artists with them? And so that is a little different for every event, but and depending on where your event is, we hold ours in the US and Canada. It's different. But we have a page of our website completely devoted to all the assistance here.
There is if it's for the UK, there is a website called Arts Info Point, and that gives you information about how to get visas for touring in the UK. It's actually very, very, very easy, and it's not expensive. It's about 100% of the price that it is for a visa for the US.
Indeed. Here's an interesting one. I might rephrase this a little because it says, would you ever consider a band that's never toured together? Would you ever consider a band that's never toured together? So basically the tour history is 0. What would it take to accept that application when the tour history is 0? Hasn't happened yet.
I would say it's too soon for them to apply.
Interesting. Nicole, same feeling, or could something change?
I think at this point, I agree with Lisa, but back with COVID and everything, there was a very valid excuse where we didn't tour. And again, providing context, it's like, yeah, we're a new band, but we have these plans. And for us, I mean, we do have a lot of local artists. So if you haven't toured yet, maybe South by is a good place to start.
There you go. There's a good one. How much does a prior international, I might just say any showcase maybe, how does a prior showcase help your application?
You go first, Nicole.
Sorry, can you repeat the question? I guess.
Yeah, how does a prior international showcase help your application? And I would say this could be any, there's nothing specific about, I think, international that necessarily changes the view, but.
Yeah, I think if you are a band not from the US and you've come and played a festival or showcase in the US that wasn't South by, that's important to know that, yeah, you've made that move to travel here and maybe build some following in this market. So yeah, it's definitely important to know.
Yeah, for me, this is kind of like listing as a highlight, is kind of like an award. You got a showcase, list it, celebrate it.
Yeah, I think it's also really easy for you to, I mean, we're always looking for strategy from artists when it's regards international work. So in the US, for example, it would be good to have an artist who's showcased at Folk Alliance and then looked at showcased at South by, and then perhaps looks at some of the more regional showcases, because that illustrates strategy. And as long as you can illustrate why you want to showcase each time, that's a good thing. You could say you performed at Showcase Scotland, and you went down well, and that would probably mean it would be more likely that the Great Escape in Brighton would look at you, which may mean that it would be more likely that somewhere like Babel Med or Womex would look at you. So, but as long as you strategize and explain the reason behind the showcase every single time, then I think it's important. It's definitely important to tell people, but don't just go back and do the same showcase. I mean, I remember going to a showcase for 6 years running in a country that shall remain nameless, 6 years running. And I saw the same band showcase for 6 years running at the same showcase. And I just thought, well, clearly nothing's happened with this artist's career and they're still having to showcase at the same showcase. So I think as long as you can, you know, verbalize and understand the reason behind that showcasing, then it's a good thing to do.
Awesome. I'm trying to find the next great question here. There's one specifically for FAI here. It says, at which point does, is there a point at which representing previously underrepresented groups of folks become a priority? So for FAI, I can speak for us, and perhaps you two can speak for your organizations in a minute. We have essentially kind of two processes. First is the jury, which scores all the applications, just giving us kind of a score, a ranking. And then we curate the showcases. And so the jury is just one thing that we consider in the process. And focusing on underrepresented groups or groups that we don't see or that we need more of at the conference because we know we have presenters coming looking for that thing. You know, we use the example of like bluegrass all the time. We have presenters who are coming looking for bluegrass bands. We've got to make sure we have bluegrass bands. You know, it's that simple. So yes, there is curation. It happens right after the jury. I don't know, any different for you two?
We just like to represent as much diversity as we can, especially if it's like an emerging genre that is growing in popularity.
Yeah, great point. A lot of people asking the same questions, so I'm kind of flipping through here, skimming. Let's see, do juries consider an applicant's social media engagement, numbers of followers, etc., as part of the application process? We do. You all take social media in?
Yeah, we do. It's interesting, in our application process, our juries score out of 100, and only 10 of those 100 points are on artistic quality. The rest are all, do they have an EPK, an electronic press kit? Is there a link that they can quickly send to a presenter? Is that up to date? Can they rationalize the reason for wanting to this opportunity, etc., etc.? So yeah.
Yeah, we definitely consider social media, you know, it's not make or break if you don't have, you know, 5,000 followers on Instagram. Again, context, we're a new band. Also, something we run into is like, okay, this person may be super popular on TikTok and Instagram, but it's because like first they're an influencer that happens to make music. So social media is not everything.
Absolutely. Trying to see, kind of just scrolling through here because we've got about 15 minutes left and I want to try to get to as many of the unique questions as I can. Interesting. Does the amount of time an artist has formally existed as an artist affect their application when it's being evaluated? Essentially asking as a new artist. I'll let you two kind of jump in on that. Tell me what you think.
No, I don't think it does. I mean, I think if as long as you can articulate and explain like what you've been doing within that time, then no, it wouldn't affect your chances.
I would say just unless it's just too soon for you to be showcasing at an international event. But if you're new and ready, no problem.
Totally. Where I would be concerned is if you say, oh, I haven't played a show yet. I'd like my first show to be at South by. I'm worried.
Yeah, interesting. Andrew McKnight brings up something that we were just talking about a moment ago. How does the lack of performing during the pandemic get factored into tour histories? I mean, simply we're at our end, we're aware. We know. We were there, man. No worries. We get it. We know why there's a gap. It doesn't affect it. Everybody had it. Let's see. Some folks here, what advice would you give international applicants who don't have an established base in the US but are trying to come here to showcase? Good question. What advice?
I would say don't be afraid. South by is an opportunity for you to come show us what you got. And I've had, we represent like an average of 60 non-US countries, and some of the most like, magical South by stories I've heard are like, oh my God, I saw this band from Nigeria. It was crazy. It was so awesome. Best thing I've seen. Now you have a band in place.
That's right.
Don't be afraid.
There's quite a few questions asking for folks to elaborate on what a solid marketing plan is. I would love, Lisa, if you could just give us the highlights. What does a solid marketing plan contain? Go down it real quick.
Whoa, that's how long's a piece of string. You need to understand how you are going to reach your audience, and you need to explain how you are going to do that. So there would be a social media marketing strategy. There would be a press strategy. There would be a live strategy. There would be a radio strategy. And it could be that for an artist who is early career, they're not in a position to employ like a publicist or a press agent, but it does do well to state that that you understand the importance of a good press representative, or I don't know what you call them in the US, but we would call them PR. I think you call them publicists.
Yeah, same.
So your marketing strategy is essentially ask yourself questions about how you are going to reach your audience, and that is how you will formulate your marketing strategy.
Brilliant. Nicole, anything else you'd like to add to that?
I think that was perfect.
Agreed. Let's see. Oh man, there was I saw a couple people asking for Lisa to clarify. You said something about 500 to 1,500 tickets for a single show as being some kind of threshold. Some folks were wanting you to clarify that, I think.
Yeah, sure. That's for a Scottish-based artist. So we would be in our jury process. We would be looking for artists who are keen to tour internationally, to have a domestic fan base already. And when I say domestic, it's not Scotland, it's the UK. Scotland is very small, right? So it would be a UK-wide positioning where they're earning enough money to be able to finance that international career, and where they have already developed an audience at home, which means they're ready. And we tend to look at artists that have an audience of between 500 a concert to 1,500 a concert. So that's what that meant.
Thank you very much for clarifying. I'm, again, just kind of scanning quickly because there's no way I'm getting to the end of this in 10 minutes. We're up to like 68 questions now. So there's a lot of, I'm just kind of seeing some themes now, people talking about how do you give new artists a shot? And I want to bring up something we do at Folk Alliance. We have private showcases that happen in the evenings after our official showcases. And we do a first-timer room that you have to be a first-time attendee. These are a lot of new artists. You don't have to be a new artist, but this is one of those things where if you sign up, you get a spot, right? There's no hurdle you have to overcome. Do you all have something similar where there is a path forward for new artists who aren't going to get that showcase?
Yeah, we absolutely do. And we have particularly this year through a project called Global Music Match, actually, which was digitally, we delivered in association with Folk Alliance. But Global Music Match was an opportunity for us to work closely with 6 developing artists. And those artists have gone on, and we have given those 6 artists basically a year's worth of showcasing experience at different showcases around the world. So yeah, artist development is is key to what we do.
Yeah, there were a lot of folks asking. What about South by? What are the opportunities available?
Well, aside from all the various networking opportunities and on the conference side, we have, I think it was more than 300 showcase, 6-band lineups for hip hop and stuff. It's maybe like you got 15 acts in a night, but and it runs the gamut from our big headliner acts, because we are also a fun festival entertainment, but as well as a developmental kind of stepping stone networking event. So yeah, we have plenty of showcases available to basically acts that we believe in, we see potential in, that may be first timers. Like our event is extremely diverse in terms of experience.
Nice.
Jared, I hate to jump in. Fawn here for
Please
anyone
do.
who hasn't heard my voice. Here, I'll show my face too. A lot of folks are wondering where sort of the line is drawn between maybe a more veteran or more developed artist who might be like definitely ready for the conference, like who should be there. There's no question that they should be showcasing there, versus a newer artist who is maybe struggling and maybe who doesn't have that experience yet. Where do you draw the line between those newer artists and those more developed artists? How would someone like distinguish themselves in one of those categories?
I mean, I would just go back to my point that I hope that I've made several times, is you need to put it into context, right? If you're an artist who is an emerging artist and yet you feel ready for this opportunity, say so and explain why you're ready for this opportunity. If you're a more established artist, then also you still need to articulate why you're ready for the opportunity, and you need to articulate that you understand how to maximize and capitalize on the opportunity. That would be my advice.
Totally.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the exact same at Folk Alliance, articulating it. I wouldn't say there's necessarily a line. It develops every year as you start sorting through the applications and starting to push folks to the top. There is a line that develops, but I do think that that's organic. It's not something we're forcing necessarily. And so depending on the year, it can flex, but also we're curating this. And so there's no way we're going to do a showcase lineup of just all veterans that people are like, I already know all of these people. It's not going to happen. Like, we're going to put plenty of new artists who, yeah, maybe they don't have an extensive tour history because they've only been going for a year, but they're absolutely inspiring. And they're going to flip everyone out. Yeah, you're getting a showcase and it's going to be amazing. So yeah, provide the context. We're there with you for the ride. A lot of folks are mentioning stuff about like, they don't know what to do with the like press mentions. Like, is it a good enough press mention? I don't know. Is this, I got this grant for writing music. Is that worth putting in my mentions? And I just want to reiterate, if it's important to you, if you're proud of it, put it in there. If you're not, don't. That's it. There's no bar. Just, is this exciting to you? Are you proud of this accomplishment? Put it on the page. Tell us what you're proud of.
Yeah, we just like to see as much as possible.
Always. Man, so many good questions. People are asking some stuff about a video about jurors here, the amount of time jurors spend on applications. I feel like we can demystify that a little bit in our last few minutes. That's a good one. I know for Folk Alliance, we try to make sure we have enough jurors that everybody gets at least 10 minutes per application that they can spend. Obviously, if they know what their score is going to be before 10 minutes, they can score it and keep going. But that's what we try to shoot for. Thoughts for either of you? Jury process?
Yeah, I think ours is probably, I think it's probably about 20 minutes per application that each juror spends on average. But yeah, I mean, the jurors have to make notes. So on our applications, they can't just give you a number, like they actually have to make notes. And that's really good because you can rest assured that they've spent time listening and reading, but also it means that we're able to give our artists feedback from what the jurors have said.
Yeah, I mean, we'd like to give as much attention as possible. We also, on our team, we have people that focus in specific genres or territories. So sorry about that. You know, so we kind of have a dedicated person that will look specifically at certain areas. And, you know, it's not always, okay, I look at this for 10 minutes. Yes, no. Like I said, with the marketing plan, if we want to check back in October, we might sit on it for a second and say, let me follow back up with this artist, see how coming along.
Amazing. It's kind of the same for us. Like we make sure that we have a very diverse jury, and we take our applications and we split them up into kind of US, Canada, international. And if we see applications organically moving in a different direction, we will make sure that our jurors that are judging these applications are very familiar with the tour routes, the venues that these artists are talking about, the publications these artists are being printed in. They know these things. And so, yeah, that's part of our job, I feel like, as curators of these showcases, is to make sure we have a diverse jury and the artists are getting a shake, fair shake in their applications. Guys, we're out of time. And I know there are still, like, we're up to 78 questions. They're just pouring in. And so I want to give you all an opportunity. You can email Folk Alliance with these kind of questions. We'll do our best to get back to you. You can find our contact information on the website, folk.org, and reach out to us, and our applications are open. So again, go to folk.org. The official showcase applications are open. Go check it out. A recording of this video will be available on that web page after it has rendered, so that you can watch it at any time. And we will do our best to kind of provide some paper resources or just some written resources that you can read, and if you're not available to watch this entire thing. But thank you again so much for being here. I think I'm going to welcome Fawn back.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to our amazing panelists, Lisa, Nicole, Jared, and of course, I'm getting a phone call at this time. Okay, let's mute that. Thank you all for joining us from around the world. So happy to see so many of you. Oh my God, Thea's here too. Thank you all for joining us. I just want to say before everyone heads out that these webinars are possible because of our supporters like you. Our year-round offerings are provided at no cost to our members, thanks to the generosity of our donors. So if you'd like to support our work, donations can be made at folk.org/donate. And don't run out of the chat just yet. I've got some other important links for you. You may have already seen the YouTube link that I posted. Be sure to like and subscribe this video or subscribe to our channel on YouTube, and then like and subscribe or like this video when it goes up later on today. We'll have like timestamps and all the links in the chat. All of those will be posted in the description of that YouTube video. Where's the chat? Here's the donation link. And here is that YouTube link as well. So subscribe, turn your notifications on, and later today that will be up and ready for you to view with all the links here in chat. So thank you so much for joining us, and have a great morning, evening, afternoon. And again, thank you all to, thanks again to our panelists.
Thank you, Fawn. And thanks to everyone in the chat. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And good luck, everyone.
Yes, thank you. June 27th.
June 17th for us. Or no, it's July 17th is when we close.
That's when they close.
That's
open
when they
now.
close. Oh yeah, we're open now. Okay, bye everyone. Have a good one.
Bye.